Hello and welcome back to some BeamNG Drive Monster Jam. Today we are at Gillette Stadium for 16 truck racing. Here are the contestants in our racing event here, and this track is a little bit different from some of the others in that, as you can see, it is essentially a circle, or a big oval I should say, but here to explain the rules is, of course, the Beam Monsters monster truck. So the monster trucks will start atop this little plateau over here, and as they go down that ramp to the starting line, they must try to avoid some tires in their first turn. They must avoid these tires because if they hit it, it's a 5-second penalty. After that, they go up a ramp on the opposite side of the stadium, come around the second turn, and again avoid the tires. But then on the last little bit, they must make sure both front wheels go up the ramp, otherwise they will be disqualified and thus not win. So let's move on to round one. Here we have Red Solo Truck and Jester. Off they go down their respective ramps. Red Solo Truck seems to have a little bit of a problem in that turn. Jester takes the lead. Off they go. Jester goes up the first ramp. Red Solo Truck also does, but seems to have some trouble. It's all down to this final turn. Jester has a huge lead, and it will be Jester who takes the win for the first race. Up next, we have Mohawk Warrior and Hook. Off they go from the starting line, entering the first turn. Mohawk Warrior seems to pop a wheelie there, that might hurt him a bit. Hook enters the turn, so does Mohawk Warrior, they're about even. Hook takes the slight lead. Mohawk Warrior takes it wide. Looks like Hook's gonna have a fairly easy win for them. And it will be Hook who takes the win. Up next, we have Gravedigger and Raising Cane. Off they go down the starting line into the first turn. Gravedigger seems to handle it a little bit better. Into their first sharp corner they go. Gravedigger seems to have the early lead. Into the second turn they go. All down to this final turn. It looks like Gravedigger has the lead, and it will be Gravedigger who will move on to round two. Here we have Predator and Raging Steel. Off the starting line they go, down the ramp, into the first turn. Raging Steel seems to be ahead. Into the first turn. Both trucks seem to be fairly even as Predator caught up. Down to this final half of the track. Raging Steel takes it wide. And it will be Predator who takes the win. Up next is Bulldozer and Taz. Taz is one of the new trucks to the mod pack. Kinda. Anyway, into the first turn they go. They seem to be fairly even. Both makes the turn. Taz seems to lag behind a bit as Bulldozer takes the lead. Get down to the final turn they go. And it looks like it'll be a fairly easy win for Bulldozer. Oh, and it looks like Bulldozer flips over at the end. Let's see what they'll still be able to come back for round two. Up next is Max D Gears and Overkill Evolution. Off they go from the starting line, down their ramps. Entering their first turn, Max D seems to get it tighter. Overkill Evolution catches up to Max D, but it looks like Max D still holds the lead. It's all down to the final half of the track. Into the final turn they go. Max D has trouble as they have to get both wheels up the ramp, and it will be Max D ever so barely. Overkill Evolution almost got it, but Max D took the win. Up next is El Toro Loco and Stone Crusher. Off they go down the ramp, entering their first turn. El Toro Loco seem to have some trouble as Stone Crusher takes the lead. Into the turn, El Toro Loco seems to be catching up a little bit. Down to the final stretch of this race. They enter the turn, and it will be Stone Crusher who takes the win. Our final race of round 1 is the Advanced Auto Parts Grinder and Nightmare. Off they go down the ramp, entering their first turn. Nightmare seems to have some trouble. Grinder takes a pretty big lead. Entering their first turn, Grinder still holds a pretty good lead over Nightmare. Down to the final turn. Grinder takes it tighter, and it looks like Grinder will have a pretty easy win. With round 1 over, let's move on to round 2. Pretty good start to round 1. Here is the lineup for round number 2. And we will see which truck will be able to move on to the semifinals. First race of round 1, we have Jester and Hooked. A couple of vans going down the starting line, entering their turn. Jester seems to take it a little bit tighter. Into the next turn they go. Both trucks seem to be fairly even, but Hooked has a slight lead over Jester. Alright, it's down to this final turn as to who will take the win. And it's going to be Jester who takes the win and moves on to the semifinals. Up next is Gravedigger and Predator. Off they go down the starting line, entering the turn. Both trucks seem to be fairly even, although Predator seems to have the slight lead. Entering the first turn, up the ramps they go. Entering their turn, Predator seems to take it a bit wide, and so Gravedigger will take the win and move on to the semifinals. As Predator seems to have some problems, rolls over and loses the tailgate. Up next is Bulldozer and Max D. Two trucks driven by Tom Mentz at some point. Let's see which one will take the win. Into the first turn, Max D seems to have a slight lead. They both take it fairly tight. Go up the first ramp at about the same time, but now it's all down to this last ramp. Down they both go. Max D seems to have the lead. And it will be Max D Gears who takes the win and moves on to the semifinals. And our final race of round 2, Stone Crusher and the Advanced Auto Parts Grinder. Off they go down the starting line. Entering the first turn, Stone Crusher seemed to have it a little bit tighter. Entering the next turn, up their ramps. Stone Crusher seems to have problems. Grinder hits the tire. That'll be a 5-second penalty. Into the final turn. And it will be Grinder who crosses the line first, but due to the penalty, it will be Stone Crusher who will move on. With round 2 over, it is time for the semifinals. Only 2 of these trucks will make it into the final round, and then one of those trucks will make it into the World Finals. Our first race of the semifinals is Gravedigger and Jester. Off they go down the starting line. Entering the turn, both trucks seem fairly even, but Gravedigger seems to have a little bit of trouble coming out of it. Gravedigger takes the lead over Jester. Entering the turn, Gravedigger takes it a bit wide. Final turn here, it seems Gravedigger will take the win for the semifinals and will move on to the final round. And next for the semifinals, Max D, Gears, and Stone Crusher. Off they go down the line. It seems Stone Crusher got a little bit of a better start. Entering the turn, Stone Crusher seems to have the lead. They both go for this first ramp. Stone Crusher barely holding on to their lead. Entering the final bit of road here. Max D seems to take the lead. And it will be Max D who moves on to the final round. On one side of the stadium, we have Gravedigger. Pretty good run for Gravedigger so far. But on the opposite side of the stadium, we have Max D, their rival. This will be a pretty interesting race we'll have here. And there is Max D Gears, the Gears version of Max D from the Gears and Galaxies thing that Monster Jam is doing. There he is. Can Max D beat their old rival Gravedigger? Let's find out. Here they are. Max D Gears on one side and Gravedigger on the other. Off they go down the starting line. Only one of these trucks will make it to the World Finals based on their win here. Off they go into the turn. Both trucks seem to be fairly even. Gravedigger has a little problem getting into that turn or over the ramp. Max D seems to be in the lead. It's down to this final turn. It's a close one, but Max D seemed to have taken the win. And Max D almost rolls it over. Yes, Max D is the racing winner. Alright, well here is the Max D Gears truck in all of its glory for its celebratory freestyle. Up next will be freestyle here for the Gillette Stadium, and I'm gonna split the freestyle into two parts. I'll release both of them at the same time, and yeah, I want to see what a part 1 and part 2 will do in terms of kind of getting people to vote on which truck won freestyle, and if it goes well, I think I'll split the other 3 freestyle runs into 2 separate parts. So we'll see how well that goes. Anyway, enjoy Max D's freestyle.